Right, so in this video we're going to look at the pressure sequence valve in particular, and then we're going to look at a full example of it. So we're going to look at the basic component itself, particular setup, and then an example of it used. Now the pressure sequence valve basically allows us to monitor a pressure buildup within the circuit and allows us, I suppose, to trigger another event once we reach a particular pressure, and also allows part of our circuit to operate at a lower pressure maybe than the rest of the overall circuit, how it's operating. So let's just have a look at some of these ideas. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up just a basic kind of demonstration of it. So bring in my air compressor, and then I'll bring in my air service unit just for good measure. Okay, let's zoom in a wee bit. Connect them up, and then what we're going to do is we're going to give an output. So just a single acting cylinder, just so we can see something actually happening. And then what we're going to do is we're going to bring in a pressure sequence valve. So it's towards the end, it's quite a big component. So just make a wee bit of space. This is what it looks like here. This is what it looks like in real life. So you'll see we've got a dial here to change what pressure we're going to trigger the valve at. So you'll see here, this is watching a pressure build up, and then it's going to trigger the valve. We've got 3 ports that we can work with, and then an exhaust port as well. And you'll see this dial, if we tighten it, we're going to increase the pressure that's going to trigger at, and if we loosen it, we're going to decrease the pressure that it will trigger at. So there's no kind of visual representation of what you're setting it to, so usually we need a gauge here as well to help us out. But let's just get into the setup. Okay, so what we've got here is, well, port 2 is our output, so that's just going to go straight into our cylinder, so we can see that working. And then we've got port 1 is going to go to our air supply. Okay, and I'm going to set the air supply coming in at 7 bar. So it's going to come in, and then once this triggers, it's going to push the cylinder out at 7 bar. Now what we also want to happen in between this is we want a slow build up of pressure in here on port 12. So basically we can then switch it at a different pressure. So what I need to do is I need to meter in on port 12. Okay, so there's videos on what metering in and metering out mean in terms of flow restrictor, so watching those videos will help you with this. But basically you see the flow of air can't go in this way because the ball is blocking the kind of the chute. So we've got to go through here, which means the airflow is reduced going in. And what we're going to do is we're going to reduce this right down, a very slow opening. So it's really going to trickle in, the air is going to trickle in to be a slow build up of pressure. And then basically we're saying once we get a build up pressure of 5 bar, we're going to switch, and this will allow the valve to operate. So remember, we're working with 7 bar altogether. So we're going to watch until we reach 5 bar here, and then we're going to allow the air to follow through. Now, a pressure sequence valve is just like a switch. Okay, if you look, if you put a switch beside it, very similar valve operation to what's going on here, except with a switch we're just manually pushing this push button, whereas with this we're watching for a build up of pressure. Once we reach the correct pressure, it will operate the valve. Okay, so they're pretty similar in essence. So let's press play and see what happens. You see slow build up of pressure, and then the cylinder operates. So watch that again. See slow build up of pressure, ticker line, then replies higher build up of pressure. Once we reach the correct pressure, it will operate. Now it can be difficult to see that and set it. So as we said, it's good practice, where is my manometers, to set up a gauge just to watch everything going through and see how it's happening and if it's switching at the correct values for you. So just again prove that down here it'll be 7, and again we can check what we're actually moving the cylinder at. So if we turn this on, see there's 7, getting a slow build up, hits 5, and then we get our pressure operating at 6 bar. Okay, so again press play, air supply coming in. That's actually why it's operating at 6. See, 7's going in. I actually should have the air supply service giving 7 out. That's why that should be at 7. And then, as we said, so 7 going in, This will switch at 5, and then it will operate at 7 over here. Okay, so you're seeing just watching a slow build up of pressure, must be metered in, and then it will switch. So that's how you set up, that's all the ports, that's how you set it up, that's what it looks like. And basically you can do this type of setup so you can set the pressure on this valve and watch, use the gauge to watch what you've actually set it at. Because remember, we don't have a visual representation of, as we tighten this or as we lower this out, what it's actually set to, what pressure it's actually set to. So a setup like this can be useful just before you actually put it into your main sequence. Now, as I said, if we take just a sequence, our basic A plus B plus A minus B minus, so you would have seen that in a previous video. And what we're going to do is we're going to add in the pressure sequence valve. So what we're saying is when B starts to move forward, once it reaches 4.5 bar, we want to switch, and then we want to start bringing A back and B back. So you'll see the incoming pressure is 6 bar, that's coming in, okay, 6 bar, that's coming in. And basically we're setting this so that it switches at 4.5 bar, okay. So what you'll see is this cylinder will move forward, at 6 bar, but this one will only move up once it reaches 4.5 bar, it won't go any higher. And I've got some gauges in here to show you. Again, remember we're metering in, this is metering out. So let's just play this. Press play, see full tick pressure, so it's moving forward, full pressure, full force behind it, metering out, so that will produce a slow movement. This is going slowly, but metering in, so it's no pressure going in, very little force, slow build up of pressure. Then this will eventually trigger at 4.5, and then the two of them come back. So what you ultimately see is this cylinder has moved forward with 6 bar, or moved back with 6 bar, whereas this cylinder has only moved forward with 4.5 bar, and then it gets switched, and then it comes back with 6 bar. See, only 4.5, comes back with full 6 bar. So essentially what we've done is, even though our fully systems working at 6 bar, we have a part of our sequence that's only working at 4.5 bar, and we've used that as a trigger. So you'd see the pressure sequence valve and the meter in, so metering in off the floor restrictor is going to be very important, and then the gauge is just to see how everything's going. Remember, your port 2 is your output, 1 is your input, usually getting a full supply of air, and then your 12 port is where you're monitoring that air, usually coming from your meter out, or always coming from your meter out. Okay, so that's it. Hopefully that makes sense and that you've enjoyed the video.